You've spent hours working on your latest crochet or knit project, carefully stitching, following the pattern, maybe even frogging a few rows to get it just right. And yet, when you hold it up, something's off. It looks messy, it fits weird, or it just doesn't have that polished wow factor that you were hoping for. So what went wrong? Well, today I'm breaking down the top mistakes that might be ruining your handmade projects, and most importantly, how to fix them. Because you deserve to create pieces that look stunning and not just average. And trust me, the last reason on this list is the one that'll change everything. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll be on your way to making projects that you actually love and can't wait to show off. Not all yarn is created equal. You can't just grab the prettiest skein off the shelf and expect a flawless project. The type of yarn you use can make or break your final results. If you're making a cozy sweater but choose a stiff, scratchy acrylic, you might end up with something that feels like you're wearing a plastic bag. On the flip side, if you're crocheting a structured tote but use a super soft drapey yarn, it's going to turn into a floppy, shapeless mess. Choosing the right yarn for a project can be tricky, especially when you first start out. It takes time and experience to resist getting caught up in all the beautiful yarns and actually focusing on what works. And the tricky part, there's no one size fits all. Every crafter has their own preference. Some people swear by acrylic yarn and use it for everything, while others couldn't be caught dead with it in their stash. For me personally, one yarn that has never let me down, no matter the project, is mercerized cotton, specifically Lion Brand's 24/7 cotton. It's durable, it has great stitch definition, and it holds its shape beautifully. But I know for a fact there are crafters out there who absolutely hate it. And that just goes to show finding the right yarn isn't just about following trends or jumping on a sale. It's about learning what works for you and your skills. Experiment, take notes, and don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. The right yarn will make your projects look better, feel better, and last longer. If you're a garment maker like me, listen up, because this one mistake can make or break your project. But if you mostly make blankets, amigurumi, or accessories, feel free to sit this one out, unless of course you want to save yourself from future heartache. I get it, swatching is boring. It feels like extra work when all you want to do is dive into your project. But skipping the gauge swatch is a disaster waiting to happen. That medium sweater that you thought would fit perfectly, it might end up looking like an oversized trash bag. Or worse, a tiny crop top when that wasn't the goal at all. And let's not forget tension. If your stitches are too tight, your fabric will be stiff and uncomfortable. Too loose and it'll look stretched out and sloppy. Either way, you'll be left wondering why your project doesn't look as polished as the pattern photos. So how do you fix this? Honestly, it's not a one-size-fits-all answer, because every crafter is unique. The first step is figuring out how you like to hold your yarn. This might take some trial and error, but once you find a comfortable grip, working on your tension will feel a lot more natural. Give yourself time, there's no rush. And if you're brand new to crochet or knitting, it might mean holding off on that complicated sweater project and focusing on smaller pieces first. The more you practice, the more consistent your stitches will be. And once you've got it down, your projects will not only fit right, they'll look and feel amazing. Take a close look at your project. Do some stitches look tight while others are loose? If so, you might be dealing with inconsistent tension. This is super common, especially for beginners. And honestly, even experienced crafters struggle with this from time to time. One of the best ways to fix this is practice. The more you crochet, the more naturally your hands will adjust to maintaining even tension. But beyond that, using the right hook and needle size for your yarn can make a huge difference. Sometimes inconsistent stitches comes down to tension control, but other times it's just forgetfulness. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you. You're working on a project, loving how it's coming together, you put it down for a bit, then you pick it back up only to realize you have no idea what size hook or needle you were using. So you guess, and now your stitches look totally different. If I had just taken a simple note, I wouldn't have this project. But I'll be honest, this has happened to me more times than I care to admit. My solution is super simple. Whenever I start a new project and I love how it's turning out, I take a quick status photo with the hook or the needle in sight. Why? Because all my hooks and needles are color coded. So even if I don't remember the exact size, that photo reminds me that I was using the purple hook or the blue needles. And if you find yourself making the same mistake, invest in color-coded hooks and needles, or simply snag a quick photo. Either can be a total game changer. It's such an easy habit, and trust me, it'll save you a ton of frustration. Not every color combo works, my friend. Bright neon pink and dark brown, maybe not the best pairing. If your project looks off, it might not be your stitches, it could just be the colors clashing. So how do you fix it? First, a simple trick. Use a color wheel. Complementary and contrasting colors are backed by science. So why not work smarter, not harder? color. But if color theory feels too technical, look to nature for inspiration. No research needed. Some color combinations just work together naturally. Think about the deep blues and the sandy beiges of the ocean, or the rich green and the earthy browns of the forest. Mother Nature knows exactly what she's doing. And if you're still unsure, neutrals never fail. A classic cream, a deep charcoal, a warm taupe can instantly make a project look chic and timeless. But here's the thing, sometimes it's not that the colors don't work, it's that they don't feel right for you. I've realized that while I'm a neutral lover at heart, I also enjoy stepping outside of my comfort zone with bold, fun colors every now and then. And the key for every new project is to take a moment and really visualize how I want the finished piece to look. I'll admit, I'm usually a sucker for using the exact colors the designer uses in their pattern photos. It's so easy, right? But I've learned that it's really worth taking the time to pick colors that actually work for me. Maybe the pattern shows a neutral design, but if your gut is telling you to go with bold stripes, go for it. At the end of the day, your project should be something you love and feel excited to wear and use. So trust your instincts, have fun experimenting, and don't be afraid to make color choices that feel authentic to you. If you're skipping blocking, you're absolutely missing out. Blocking takes your project from homemade to handmade. It smooths out the stitches, evens out the edges, and gives your piece a clean, professional look. Think of it like ironing your clothes. No one walks around in a wrinkled shirt, so why would you leave your crochet project looking crumpled and misshapen? Now, I know a lot of new crafters struggle with this. It might seem unnecessary or just feel like one extra step that you don't want to deal with. But trust me, seasoned crafters swear by blocking because it makes a huge difference. And let me be clear, blocking doesn't have to mean fancy mats, expensive pins, or complicated techniques. It's simply about relaxing those stitches so your project lays the way it's supposed to. If I'm working with wool, I usually give it a warm soak, gently shape it, and let it dry on the bath towel. But if I'm using acrylic, I go for a steam blocking with a hot iron, or believe it or not, a quick run through the washer and dryer, and it always works like a charm. Now, before you go experimenting, always check the care instructions for your specific yarn. You don't want to accidentally ruin hours of work because some fibers react very differently to heat, water, or pressure. But once you figure out the right blocking method for your project, you'll never want to skip it again. Trust me, your future self and your finished projects will thank you. Now let's talk about tools for a second, specifically your crochet hook or your knitting needles. Are you using a plastic crochet hook with slippery yarn, or maybe metal needles that are just too slick for your comfort? Your tools really do matter. The right hook or needles can make your project feel easier to work on and even improve your final product. For example, a wooden hook might give you that perfect grip, especially if you're working with a yarn that tends to slip a little bit too much. On the other hand, a metal hook can help you crochet or knit a little bit faster since they're usually smoother and allow for quicker movement. But here's the thing, tools aren't one size fits all. This is one area where personal preference is huge. So if you're even slightly feeling like your tools aren't quite right, it might be time to experiment with something new. I can promise you this, switching to a different material or style of hook or needle might surprise you. You could be using the exact same technique with a different tool and make a world of difference in how your projects turn out and feel. You might even find out that you love a tool that you never thought you'd give a try. The key here is to experiment. Test out different options until you find one that works best for you. Whether it's a bamboo hook, a silicone coated needle, or even something with a soft grip, don't be afraid to switch it up. Your projects, your hands, and your enjoyment of the craft will all thank you for it. We've all been there, sitting down to a project and thinking, I can finish this in one sitting, but rushing through your crochet or knit project, it's a one-way ticket to sloppy stitches, misstep, and uneven tension. You might think you're speeding things up, but in the end, it just makes the whole process more stressful and your project less polished. The key here is to slow down. Take regular breaks, stretch your hands, give yourself permission to enjoy the process. Yes, even the boring parts. Crafting is a journey, not a race. If you're too focused on finishing fast, you might miss out on the joy and satisfaction that comes from watching a piece come together, stitch by stitch. Now, if you're in the thick of it, maybe you're already halfway through a project and you're feeling the time crunch. There isn't much you can do in that moment except to finish it. Or is there? Sometimes it's as simple as being honest with your friend or family member. If you're making a gift for someone special, don't be afraid to tell them, hey, this gift is going to be amazing, but I need a little more time. It's okay to set realistic expectations with others so you can deliver something that you're really proud of. Looking ahead though, planning is your best friend. If somebody's birthday is in May, don't wait until the first week of May to start in that cardigan. Start in January. Give yourself time so you can enjoy the crafting experience without that looming stress. Not only will your projects turn out better, but you'll avoid the burnout that comes with rushing. A relaxed crafter creates their best work. Now let's talk about those pesky ends, shall we? Listen, I get it. When you're finishing a project, it's tempting to just tie a knot, snip the excess, and call it a day. But trust me, if you skip the proper weaving in process, your project is going to unravel faster than a loose stitch, and all that hard work will be for nothing. You've put in so much time and effort, so don't let your project fall apart just because you didn't take the time to weave in your ends securely. It's honestly worth the extra step. Now I get it, this might not come naturally to you at first, especially if you're new to it, but here's a pro tip. Don't be afraid to turn to a good old YouTube tutorial. I love watching different tutorials on weaving in ends because I always seem to learn something new every time. Whether it's a new technique or a trick I hadn't thought of, there's always room to improve. I'll leave some of my favorite crochet and knit in weaving tutorials in the description box below, so be sure to check them out. Trust me, your projects will thank you for it. And if you're one of those crafters who believes that a good tight knot and a quick trim will do the job, take it from someone who's fallen for that trick before. It does not work. The ends will come undone, and before you know it, you'll be left with a frayed mess. Skip the shortcuts and go for the traditional method. Weaving in your ends properly is the only way to ensure your project stands the test of time. So let's make sure that all the love and care that you put into your project is reflected in how you finish it off. Trust me, you'll be glad that you did. Okay, here's the big one, the last tip. And this one might sting a little bit, but bear with me. What if, just maybe, your project doesn't actually look bad at all? You heard me. Sometimes the reason we're feeling like our projects suck is because we're our own worst critic. We look at every little flaw, every slight imperfection, and think it ruins the whole thing. But here's the thing, more often than not, it's not as bad as we think. In fact, it's not bad at all. We're so quick to admire other people's creations, but when it comes to our own, we nitpick every stitch, color choice, and mistake. But stop right there. Seriously, stop. It's not doing you any favors, and it sure isn't making crafting fun. If you're constantly in that mindset, it'll drain your love for the craft. Let me tell you something. Nobody notices those tiny imperfections that you're beating yourself up over. Who cares if one stitch is a little tighter than the others? Who cares if you chose a yarn that's not quite what you envisioned? And who really cares if it doesn't fit exactly how you imagined? What matters is that you created it with your own hands, your own heart, and that, my friend, is something to be incredibly proud of. So here's the deal. Can we all make a promise to ourselves? No matter how imperfect the project is, let's just be proud that we made it. Let's not let those tiny flaws or design choices take away from the satisfaction of completing something with our own creativity and skill. We might not always love the outcome, but the act of creating something from scratch is worth celebrating every single time. Let's give ourselves a little grace, because no matter how the project turns out, it's still a reflection of your own unique talent and passion, and that's something to be proud of. So stop comparing yourself to others and give yourself credit for your hard work. After all, if you made it, it's already success in my book. I know you've made at least one of these mistakes, and don't worry, I have too. It happens to the best of us. If you find yourself in a situation where your project didn't turn out how you imagined, know that you're not alone. We've all been there. So if the last tip stung a little bit, I'm so sorry for the tough love, but somebody had to say it. And now you know what to watch out for. You're armed with the knowledge to avoid those mistakes moving forward. But it's not all bad news. Now you have the tools to level up your craft and take your projects from average to amazing. So I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below, what's the worst mistake you've ever made on a project? Don't be shy. We've all had our fair share of mishaps, and sharing them might actually help someone else learn too. Plus, it's always fun to swap stories and learn from one another. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more tips, tricks, and all things knit and crochet, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. I can't wait to see you on the next one with more tips to help you create projects that you're proud of. Until next time, see you on the next one. Bye!